Think about this for a second. A single, stationary chair caused thousands of deaths, systematically wiped out ancient families, and brought an entire continent to its knees. Welcome to This Explainer, where we are going to break down the massive rise, the brutal betrayals, and the ultimate fall of Westeros. We're not just going to recount the history here. We're going to map out exactly how this game was played, look at the intense psychological toll of absolute power, and figure out exactly why this story absolutely captivated the world.
So, what if one throne destroyed absolutely everything? Imagine a seat of power so alluring, so deeply coveted by everyone, that people willingly sacrifice their own morals, their bloodlines, and literally countless innocent lives just for the chance to sit on it. It wasn't just a political position, you know? It was this massive gravitational pull of destruction. How does a society even survive when the ultimate prize demands ultimate ruthlessness?
All right, let's set the stage with Part 1, The World of Westeros, a land deeply divided.
Now, the realm of Westeros basically operates in a state of constant, massive gridlock. It's fractured into these deeply entrenched factions, ruled by heavy-hitting, ancient families like the Starks, the Lannisters, and the Targaryens. Each of these houses has immense historical wealth and massive armies at their disposal. But the real tension? It all lies entirely at the center. Because the rule of this world is zero-sum. Whoever claims the Iron Throne rules absolutely everything. And because that power is absolute, the scramble for control is just constant and totally ruthless.
And honestly, this setup creates the central irony of the entire story. On one hand, you have the Iron Throne. It represents all this petty political maneuvering, the backstabbing, and the desperate scramble for human control. But on the other hand, a much larger, apocalyptic threat is rising up in the north, the White Walkers. These forces of winter do not care about politics. They don't care about crowns or royal bloodlines. It's a perfect juxtaposition, right? Humanity's total obsession with power is completely blinding them to their own existential doom.
Which brings us to Part 2. The game begins. The true catalyst of chaos.
Look, every massive war has a spark, and ours begins with the unraveling of Ned Stark. Here is a man driven entirely by honor, stuck in a system that literally rewards deception. And what's staggering here is just the sheer speed of the collapse. Like, look at this timeline. Day 1, he discovers the crown's darkest secret. By day 2, he's betrayed. Day 3, executed. Within a single week, the shockwave of this one massive injustice completely shatters the fragile peace of the realm and plunges the entire continent into immediate, chaotic warfare. Because that execution, it doesn't just start a battle, it completely fractures the global geopolitical landscape. Instantly, the Lannisters start manipulating their grip on the throne. The Starks declare independence and wage a war of absolute bloody revenge. But while Westeros is tearing itself apart from the inside, the power dynamic is shifting all the way across the sea. Daenerys Targaryen is rising. And she isn't just bringing a foreign army with her, she's reintroducing actual dragons to the world. That entirely changes the calculus of warfare. Let's look closer at her journey in Part 3, Rise of the Dragon Queen. From powerless to conqueror.
Daenerys' whole trajectory is defined by this fierce savior complex. I mean, she goes from a marginalized exile to a terrifying sovereign. Step 1, she systematically frees the oppressed. Step 2, she builds an incredibly devout army. And Step 3, she commands literal weapons of mass destruction, her dragons. Her singular, unwavering goal is to reclaim the throne her family built, operating under this deeply held belief that she and only she can break the wheel of tyranny.
But here is the ultimate twist. Power changes people. Acquiring immense, unchecked power fundamentally alters your character. Daenerys' ascent isn't just this physical march toward the capital, it carries a massive psychological toll. Think about it. When every single problem in your way can be solved with fire and blood, the line between justice and vengeance gets super blurry. We are forced to ask a really difficult question here. What actually happens to the psyche of a liberator when they finally attain absolute control?
And that tension explodes in Part 4, The Ultimate War, shifting alliances and bloodlines.
Right at the apex of all this political warfare, biological legitimacy comes in and completely destroys the established rules of the game. The reveal that Jon Snow is actually a Targaryen upends every single claim to the throne. It perfectly exposes the absolute fragility of feudal politics. Just one secret about someone's bloodline is enough to shift loyalties overnight, turn trusted allies into immediate threats, and forever change the political landscape of Westeros.
And while all of this is happening, the thematic collision of the two wars finally hits. The Night King and the Army of the Dead actually breach the North. Suddenly, all that human political squabbling we've been talking about, it means absolutely nothing if humanity ceases to exist. The warring factions are forced right into a corner. They literally have to pause their obsessive Game of Thrones just to unite against total extinction.
Which leads us to the aftermath, in Part 5, the final twist. The ashes of victory.
The real tragedy of the climax isn't just about destruction. It's about the liberator becoming the ultimate tyrant. When Daenerys finally reaches King's Landing, the harsh reality of actually ruling clashes violently with her fantasy of conquering. Faced with a populace that doesn't exactly welcome her with open arms, she chooses fear. She uses dragonfire to totally decimate a surrendered city and slaughter countless innocents. It proves that the relentless pursuit of the throne entirely corrupted her original righteous intentions.
And this leads to the ultimate, heartbreaking cost of the game, the clash between duty and love. To stop her tyranny and save whatever is actually left of the realm, Jon Snow has to commit the ultimate personal sacrifice. He takes Daenerys' life. He does break the wheel, but not by ruling. He breaks it by eliminating the final tyrant. It's a devastating moment that forces us to realize the true heavy price of ending a cycle of absolute power.
So after all this horrific bloodshed, the capital is in literal ruins, and the major players are dead, exiled, or just completely broken. It begs the question, who actually wins the game? Who ends up on the Iron Throne?
Well, in a realm that was utterly decimated by ambitious warriors and these charismatic monarchs, the survivors do something unexpected. They elevate someone who is none of those things. They choose Bran Stark. They choose memory and history as the ultimate countermeasure to ambition, and the logic there is pretty profound. Only by appointing a leader who sees the past clearly can they ensure they never, ever repeat its devastating mistakes.
And yet, here's the kicker, there is no Iron Throne for Bran to even sit on. It was melted down into a literal puddle of slag by Dragonfire. The physical object that caused so much pain, the ultimate symbol of destructive ambition, is completely wiped off the face of the earth. The literal seat of power had to be destroyed just to finally end the horrific cycle of violence it inspired.
The grand tragedy of this entire saga leaves us with one seriously devastating realization. You see, the real enemy wasn't the rival families. It wasn't even the apocalyptic forces of the cold. The true enemy was the desire for power itself. That ambition, when left totally unchecked and elevated above basic humanity, is what truly destroys worlds.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you either win or you die. We've heard it since the very beginning. But standing here, looking at the ashes left behind, it really begs a much larger question. If winning the ultimate prize requires sacrificing your morals, destroying your own family, and completely losing your humanity, is it a game even worth playing at all? Let me know your favorite moment from this explainer down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to dive into more stories with us.